Good afternoon or good evening to everyone. Hope you are having a wonderful long weekend. We have a 3-day weekend, so enjoy it. Let's get through this video. 1, 2, 3. Now, please on your paper label it 1, 2, 3. We are going to start this today. We're going to finish it on Tuesday, so I know it's kind of spread out. So please write it 1, 2, 3. When you are doing your pictures for your video or for your homework, please label everything we're doing as the lesson. That way it's easier to keep track of what belongs with what, okay? So 1, 2, 3, what is the function? Function machines. In the next few lessons, you will add to your list of what you can ask about a graph of a function. Throughout this chapter, you have used functions between two variables, like y equals the opposite of x squared plus 3x plus 4 to make graphs and find information. Today we will look more closely at how equations that relate two variables help us establish a function between the variables. You will also learn a new notation to help you represent these functions. It is very important that you guys understand this right here. It's a different way of working things, and it's a little bit confusing. And so once you get the hang of it, it makes sense. But first, it's just a little weird, okay? Here we go. Pay very close attention here. 153, function machines. A function works like a machine, as shown in the diagram below, this diagram right here in the bottom right corner. A function is given a name that can be a letter, such as f or g. F as in function, g as in graph, but it can really be anything, okay? The notation f parentheses x represents the output when x is processed by the machine. Now, this is how it's read. Listen carefully. This f parentheses x is read as f of x, like the function of x. Does that make sense? F of x, function of x. We're trying to find what happens when you plug in x. When x is put into the machine, f of x, the value of a function for a specific x value comes out. And this notation, f of x, replaces y. So it's really kind of the same idea, like if I had y equals 2x plus 1, well then x could be anything, and you just plug it in there, and y will be anything depending on what x is. But if I just wanted to find the value of one specific value or certain specific values, I could say, hey, instead of just y being anything, I want f of 4. I want the function of 4 for 2x plus 1. Well then, in this case, this value here is not going to be anything. It's only going to be the output when you plug in 4 for x. Does that make sense? So f of 4 for 2x plus 1 will give you one specific value versus y equals, which would give you multiple values or infinite number of values, okay? Numbers are put into the function machine, in this case f of x equals x squared minus 1, one at a time. And then the function performs the operation or operations on each input to determine each output. For example, when x is 3 is put into the function, f of x equals x squared minus 1, the function squares it. What's it? 3. 3, and then subtracts 1 to get the output, which is 8. The notation f of 3 equals 8 shows that the function named f connects the input 3 with the output 8. So f of x gives a specific connection between one input and one output, or maybe multiple if there are multiple answers. Find the output for f of x equals x squared minus 1 when the input is 4, or x equals 4. That is, find f of 4. So on your paper, please write this down. This is problem 153. I would expect you to write, first of all, I expect you to write f of x equals, this would have been an important thing to write down. F of x is read as function of x, right? Write those down. Those details like that are important things to write down. That is what you are working on learning to take notes. And that's one of the key things of this information, and you should have written it down. But we want to find f of 4, x squared minus 1. So you write that, f of 4 equals x squared minus 1. And then the next line right below it, next line right below it, guys, okay? Not working to the side, not working 2 lines down, not working just random. On the line below it, you should put 4 squared minus 1. Do I have to put it in parentheses? Not necessarily because it's a positive number. If it was a negative number, I do need to put it in parentheses. So it's kind of a good thing to get in the habit of. It doesn't hurt anything to have it in parentheses, but it could hurt it if you don't put the negative number in parentheses. So the third one down, and you're like, Mr. Ramirez, do I have to write f of 4 every single time? Yeah, you do, so do it. 16 minus 1, so f of 4, final answer, function of 4 is 15. And that is how, and of course you circle your answer, or oval your answer, or rectangle your answer, I don't care. But that is what I'm looking for, this right here. And it should take you all 1, 2, 3, 4 lines working straight down. So you have 1-53 on your paper to the left side of the red line, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. There is your work, there is your answer. That is what I'm expecting to see. That is what you need to be working on. For some of you, this is just like common sense. It's just what you've done all your life, and that's just the way it is. Great. For some of you, this is so opposite to everything you've done and everything Noah, and you're like, well, no teachers ever complained. Yeah, too bad. You're in 8th grade now, so get over it. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I need you to do. Got it? All right, cool. Let's move on. Here we go. That shows that right there. That's what we just did. So now find f of -1 and find f of 10. So I want you to pause the video, and I want you to actually try it to see if you're understanding. Now, if you're completely lost and don't know what you're doing in this situation because you just haven't figured it out, you can just watch with me. But otherwise, pause and let's check it. Okay, hopefully you paused. Let's see what it looks like. So here is exactly what I'm looking for. This is letter B, so you should have letter B. F of -1 equals x squared minus 1. See, here's the thing. F of -1 equals -1 in parentheses squared minus 1. F of -1 equals 1, because -1 times -1 is positive 1 minus 1. So F of -1 equals 0. There's your answer. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. Okay? Over here, F of 10. I'm going to go a little bit higher because I wanted to fit in x squared minus 1. F of 10 equals 10 squared minus 1. And F of 10 would equal 99. Circle it. Done. Cool. Is that what you got? Hopefully you got it right. And again, I'm expecting you to write this down, so please make sure you're writing it down. This is what you have to include with your homework or with your review preview and your notes from class on Tuesday, okay? Now, last problem here. Last problem on this page. If the output for this function is 24, did you hear that? If the output for this function is 24, what is the input? That is, if f of x equals 24, do you see the difference there between this? This is saying f of -1. This is saying f of x equals 24. So now if I have f of x equals x squared minus 1, what does the 24 replace? Well, the 24 is equal to f of x. 24 is equal to f of x. So instead of this f of x, I can write the number 24. So the 24 here replaces the f of x. So 24 equals x squared minus 1. Do you remember how to solve that one now? Okay, well, to get the x alone, I add 1 to both sides, and I get 25 equals x squared. Now, something squared equals 25. What could the answer be? Well, cool thing is, and we don't quite know this yet, but I'm looking for the positive or negative square root of 25. Because technically that radical sign, the square root of a number is always positive. It's always positive. That's just the rule that they came up with. Anytime you find the square root of a number, it's always positive, even though 5 times 5 is 25, and -5 times -5 is 25. The square root is always positive. So we put this positive negative plus minus in front of it. So I'm looking for the square root of 25, positive and negative, and square it over here. And remember we talked about it just yesterday, or a couple days ago, the square root of a number squared cancels out, and you're left with positive and -5 equals x. Is there more than one possible input? Yes, there is. X could be 5 or X could be -5 because that -5 would go into the parentheses when you square it. Okay? And again, that's what you should have before you move on. If you need to write it down, pause the video and write it down. Well, this is now your task. What I want you to do right now for homework, it should take you all of just a couple minutes. I want you to copy that table down, please. And I want you to tell me if there's a relationship. Well, there is a relationship between X and f of X in the table below. You are going to fill in the blanks in that table, and then you are going to tell me what the relationship is. So f of X, to get f of X, what am I doing to X? Cool. Get that done. Do it tonight. Write it down. I expect to see that when you turn in your work for lesson 1, 2, 3. And we will see you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend.